I want to talk about self-care, and I want to make a very clear distinction for you. All right? Self-care is not indulgence in your vices. I think a lot of us have this very, very toxic idea when it comes to self-care, where, it's a culturally induced notion where we think that self-care looks like, taking the day off, going maybe for a walk, going for, going having a bubble bath, stuff like that, just relaxing. Now, some of that can be all well and good, but in general, my definition of self-care is making sure you wake up, at the same time every day, still, no sleeping in, right? Because you know that if you really want to stick to your goals, then you got to keep that routine consistent. For me, self-care is making sure you hit that workout every day. And if you're like me, hit that workout several times a day to keep your attitude in check. And then there's eating the right foods, eating the correct foods, making sure that you're buying the right foods, the right foods actually come into your life, into your house, such that, you're not buying any junk food so you can't even eat it, that kind of thing. You set boundaries with yourself such that you don't indulge in vices. You don't even allow yourself to have the vices around you, whatever it is. And you make sure you go to bed on time, because giving yourself the sleep you need is probably one of the biggest forms of self-care you can do. A lot of times maybe someone would say self-care is even going out and clubbing and then drinking their face off, because that's leisure, right? But the thing is that there is high quality forms of leisure and there's low quality forms of leisure, right? Someone may think in their pastime they can eat chips and just watch Netflix marathons, and they can go out and drink their face off, and they can go and irresponsibly do some drugs that they shouldn't be doing. These are negative forms of leisure, right? And the reason why they're negative is because they leave a net impact of a negative on your life, right? And I think a lot of people conflate self-care with this idea of negative, leisure that's not good, low quality leisure that has a net negative, right? And that's really the main point about this idea of self-care, because I do actually like the idea of scheduling in some leisure, right? But making sure that's positive leisure, where you are focusing on something that invigorates you, enriches you, makes sure you really recharge your batteries, and that's a net positive, right? So when it comes to your own self-care, make sure the things that you're doing is going to leave a net positive on your life. It's not going to set you back the next day. Otherwise, you're just going to be shooting yourself in the foot, and you don't want that. No way. If your own form of self-care right now leaves you regretting the next day, leaves you regretting what you did the day before the next day, that wasn't self-care. That was just you indulging in your vices, right? And to that, if that's the case for you, then you have to find new, healthier sources to get your own reprieve. I think a lot of times we don't even have any healthy sources. If we just grow up naturally like most people, we won't even develop any interest in the healthy sources, so we will never go to them. And this is a thing you have to to create an abundant, positive life, you actually have to intentionally get yourself interested in healthy forms of reprieve, healthy forms of self-care, such that you're left with, no hangover. You're left with, no weight gain, not feeling like crap. You're left feeling good, right? So if you have this idea that self-care means like you're going to go in a bubble bath, or you're going to have a Netflix marathon, or you're going to sleep in, that's not self-care, because you're not building yourself. You're not putting yourself forward for the next day. That's self-sabotage. And I think, I remember when I first thought about self-care, that's how I thought about it. But no, it's actually doing stuff that's difficult. It's still showing up for that workout every day. It's still getting up at the same fucking time. It's still going to bed, on time or earlier. Being a good boy, being a good girl, like just shit that you were taught when you were a kid, but we never seem to embody as an adult. Eating the food that's good for you, that's going to make you feel good. It's simple stuff, but do you do it? Right? It's just simple forms of self-respect here. So yeah, closing thoughts, right? Self-care is not indulgence. It is proper self-care will leave you at a net positive, not a net negative. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. And I will see you in the next one.